So here today I have Kelly Johnson, and she is the creator, owner, proprietor of Wings, Worms, and Wonder. And I just love this business because it's such a combination of passions. I mean, it's so evident just in the name. She is a talented artist, and what do you call the gardener? Horticulturist? Is that the official word? Or you just go with gardener? Well, you had also spoke of being a garden grandma, and I was like, no, they're not going to buy that. And gardener, maybe. Grandma, no way. But I want to speak to the idea of how you have truly built a business around this idea of a sense of wonder. And was that, how do you build a business around that, and why? And it creates such delightful things. I can see that, but tell me a little bit about the business part of it and how you really make it all work.
Yeah, so I guess it started because I worked with children a lot, and I have to admit, until 2010, I didn't even know Rachel Carson's book, Sense of Wonder. And I probably should have, since I was working with children, but.
And that was like a life-changing book for you.
It really was. And that book was published in 1964, I believe, right after she died. And it was originally published as a magazine article in a women's journal in the 50s. And it was called Teaching Your Child to Wonder or something originally. But then take that sort of blew my mind open in 2010. But if you rewind to the previous decade, I was a Montessori teacher. So Maria Montessori and the entire philosophy is really based in wonder. And it was based obviously in science as well, and planes of development. But she has things called sensitive periods, but a huge part of it is sparking the child's wonder through beauty, through art, through intentional movements, and through the environment, indoors and out, to inspire their own natural drives to learn. So I think I was kind of primed for it there. And I think also growing up, I was always just gravitated towards making art since I was tiny. I don't ever remember not making art. And my parents really encouraged that. And we always had any art supplies. My parents I was fortunate that they could let me take pretty much any art class that I wanted, that they were incredibly supportive of me choosing to go to art school, because back then it wasn't quite as... Now people are like, yeah, go to art school. You can be a graphic designer and make money. Back then it was like, art school? Really?
Yeah.
It wasn't quite as embraced as it is these days.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're just following this path of joy. It's almost like a path of joy that leads you to your joy.
Yes, it is. It is. And even in like times, everything hasn't all been like pink bubbles and rainbows.
Yeah.
Like for me, and I think with this project, art as healing. And for me, nature and art have always been like healing places. Like they fix things for me anyway, and being able, if you're feeling sad or you're a teenager and your emotions are all over the place, to have to be able to go into nature and feel a release or a break from the social chaos that is adolescence or life sometimes.
Yeah.
Also having the art as a tool to assimilate what you're thinking and feeling, or as a way to just tap into the flow and not consciously think about things. Obviously you're consciously thinking about things when you're making art, but just channel whatever you're feeling and just let it be art. Sort of lose yourself in art, I would say.
Yeah.
Or in nature too, sort of lose yourself, because you become in both of those, I don't call them things, but practices, I would say, because nature can be a practice. You become very present focused.
Yes.
So it really brings you in the present moment. So this whole thing just kind of evolved on me in a way. I like to say, like, it found me. I didn't really choose it. So when I left the classroom in 2010, because, you know, working with kids and working with all children, but Montessori children, where they're given this environment for their wonder to thrive, then you start to see, oh, well, what pieces of the puzzle are missing? So at first it was nature. And I was the, you know, small grassroots school, you end up doing a lot of jobs. So I was first and second grade teacher, and the art teacher, and the music teacher, and ran the garden. So it was a lot, but fun, like not bad a lot. So taking all of that, and I wanted to see how I could take it further. Like, yes, I'm helping my own students, but how can this grow? Because I would see the adults come, and the adults would be so afraid of the garden and so afraid of art. They would be attracted to it. They would want to come and ask questions, but I was like, yeah, you should, you know, let's work. Oh, no. Oh, no, I can't do that. I can't even draw a straight line.
Well, I'll tell you what kind of intimidates me a bit, and I have to ask you. I'm not too fond of like the things that wiggle, like in sting. Okay, the worms and the bees. I remember my grandmother also had a garden, and you know, I remember it was nothing for her to like slice into a tomato, and there would be this horny, huge, nasty, ugly, green, whatever, tomato worm. And she would think nothing of it, you know, just, and I'd be like, never touch another tomato.
It's so true. And that's like a really great point, because that's very valid with children and adults. You know, you have these memories, or maybe you've been stung by a bee, or down here, fire ants are just brutal.
Yes.
And some kids are afraid. But the way I always approached it was, if you're afraid of something, we're afraid of it because we don't understand it. So let's learn more about it. Like, what is that worm? What is it called? What is it doing in there? What is its purpose? What is it going to turn into? You know, so
I don't think I want to know that. That's an alien. It's going to be a future alien.
But taking that fear or wonder or whatever it is, and then taking it further and like really truly understanding it, you know? So if I had that happen, if you were my student and we cut open the tomato first, and she's probably, you know, like my grandmother, great grandmother would have been the same way. They're very like matter of fact, they just like chuck it, like no big deal, we move on.
Yeah.
But now I know that, you know, I know how, you know, children aren't as, when they were little girls, you know, everything was coming from the land. But when we were, not necessarily, you know, or kids today, most definitely not.
Yeah. So
I would approach that with wonder. We'd chop it over, like, whoa, oh my gosh, look who's in here. This is so cool. And approach it like that. So any instant fear that they have, they see that I'm like, think this is a great thing that has just happened, you know?
Yeah.
Even though in my head I might be like,
yeah, and my grandmother did not react that way. You know, she was just like, it's just a worm.
Yeah, right. And she wouldn't. And mine wouldn't have either. They would have just been like, oh, we didn't pick this one off, you know, or, you know, whatever. But for us now to keep to make kids attracted to nature. I had a little boy who was really anxious about the garden. This was 2 weeks ago. I was doing a workshop because he had been stung by fire ants so much, and he had a real reaction to them, as well as wasps, and which are just part of the landscape. So his mom asked me, like, his anxiety he gets so nervous because he doesn't know where, like, he's just too afraid of ants. He just envisions being covered in ants.
Yeah.
And so I told her, okay, well then we need to learn about ants. We need to teach him how to look for ants. Where do ants like to make piles? What do we learn about their culture and their behavior? You know, I've actually done entire workshops on fire ants with kids before, and they're actually fascinating. They groom each other. They like massage each other. They're like have these communities that are totally nurturing when they're these most vicious. Fire ants, anyway, are the most vicious. But they're real, and then you start to see, like, in a way it sort of anthropomorphizes, but you start to see, like, oh wow, who knew these creatures do more than just like plan how to sting me? you know?
Wow. That's fascinating. Are those some of those secrets in the book that you've written?
Well, this is kind of a new project I've been embarking on. They're not, but yes, other things like that are, yeah. The fire ant, I just did the fire ant workshop last spring, and I myself was absolutely amazed.
Yeah, I think that's very, very worthwhile. Because
So taking anything that we're afraid of or anything that we don't understand. I mean, some kids are just afraid of being in the grass because they're normally not allowed. They're afraid. They've never picked a leaf and eaten it.
wow.
So any way that the tiniest little spark or seed can be planted. And the best part is many of my workshops are family workshops. The adults are just as lit up as the children. And I do write about this. You said I couldn't be a grandmother, but technically I can be a grandmother. I turned 40 this year.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I turned 40 in December. But so growing up in that time, late 70s through the 80s, a lot of kids, that you think the 80s, you think shopping malls and video games,
Yeah.
you're not thinking nature. So a lot of my peers didn't grow up the way that I grew up and took for granted until I got older and realized that they didn't. Oh yeah, right. I think I wrote in there, oh yeah, wait, not everybody's grandpa grows their food. So,
Right. I call that your broccoli moment. When
Yeah.
you have the broccoli, the frozen broccoli. And so I really love that story, by the way.
it sounds so silly, and it's so silly that you have an epiphany over frozen broccoli, but it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I probably had a really silly look on my face when it happened. Hopefully no one noticed, but wait. It took me a little while to process that and what I wanted to do with that realization,
Yeah, but isn't it true though that it is like you are on this journey through your life, and there are those ordinary moments that sometimes we miss the clues of what our calling is and what we're supposed to do.
And that's what I call in my classes nature's whispers.
Yes,
So we can
I love that.
tune into seeing and hearing the whispers, and the whispers are the most ordinary things that we overlook because they're just, on the side of the sidewalk right outside of our house or whatever. But if we can really take time to intentionally, that's why I say take 5 minutes and intentionally go and slow down. I have a project in one of my books that you mark off a square and you can choose whatever period of time, but 2 weeks to a year. When you start having people look at the square with their nature journals, just take some rope and some sticks and delineate a space. You could take a hula hoop, works also. Put a hula hoop on the ground and delineate.
I have my hula hoops.
Yeah.
That's a great use for them.
That works perfectly too. And the first time, inevitably, everyone's like, no, nothing's there. There's nothing in this square. And you're like, well, let's look closer. Well, isn't there grass? Well, wait, this grass looks different than this grass, or these must be different kinds of plants. But wait, there's soil. Do you think anyone's living in that soil, So it's amazing when you look at, if you just can slow down and give yourself permission to slow down and schedule the time, put it on the calendar so it happens. Schedule the time to slow down and just listen and look and tune in. And it's amazing. Those little things, then your wonder starts to grow, and then it starts to become sort of a natural thing. You'll be anywhere and you'll be like, oh my gosh, look at that. Oh wait, there's eastern bluebirds migrating through the grocery store parking lot. You just start to notice these things and make an intention on times when you're walking places, even if it's from your car into, say, the grocery store. Don't look at your phone. Put it away. Take this is my time. It's 3 minutes, but it's my time to tune in to the sky or, whatever. I always choose that myself when in parking lots, because you can often, there's no trees, so you can see a lot of sky.
Right.
I think it's a nice way to balance the rest of the environment.
The pavement. It balances the pavement. Yeah. Okay, so tell me, what is in your garden today? Do you have a backyard garden, and what's in there?
Yeah, so a lot of my kind of my whole yard is my garden. I have 4 raised garden beds, and they have marigolds. Well, now let me say, in Florida, we're just coming into our growing season. Late summer is pretty much all you can grow are eggplants and hot peppers and okra. It gets really too hot to garden. And so October is when we really gear up down here. So I have right now green beans, bok choy, kale, collard greens, rainbow chard, parsley, lemon verbena, rose geranium. I'm forgetting something. We just pulled a bunch of peppers because the hurricane killed them, but we'll put carrots in soon when it cools down a little bit more. And when it cools down a little bit more, then we'll do we'll do a lot of broccoli and probably some cabbage.
Okay, now are you a vegan? Do you eat vegetarian? Okay.
I've been vegan for 20 years.
Wow. And so you just basically just go out to your backyard and
yeah, a lot of times. Yeah. And we also grow bananas and papayas and lemons and oranges and star fruit.
Wow.
And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. We've grown all sorts of things throughout the years, but I think that's what we've got right now.
And so Sean, you've mentioned Sean, who is your partner and a fellow artist, does something entirely different, does paintings and music, which is fantastic. Does he help you in the garden?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah. And we met in art school. So we've been together 20 years also. And we actually started a little garden in his backyard in college. And it was funny because it was his idea. He loves produce. He did produce for his job in college. He was produce boy at the little health store, that little local.
The hottie and the produce.
Yeah, right. And it's funny because before I knew him, in the school building, it's funny, it's college, but it was art school, and they would literally like post pictures in the hallway. People's artwork like would line the halls because I went to SCAD, and the buildings were a lot of the buildings were old elementary schools. So they had these cork like lining the hallways where you would put the children's work. So they would tack our artwork up on the wall. I don't know if they still do this, but back then in the 90s they did. And he had done this self-portrait for one of his drawing classes, and I didn't even know him at the time, but he's 6'6", and it was long and skinny. It was as tall as him. And I was like, oh, that's that string bean guy. And I used to call him the string bean, like behind his back. It was a very small school back then, so I knew people who knew him. And then his job was produce, and he loves eating, and he's an excellent cook. He does all our dinner cooking and everything around.
Oh, lucky you.
Yeah, but so it was his idea to plant the garden, and it was so funny that it wasn't mine. You know, I hadn't had that epiphany yet, and I hadn't like, oh, right, like I'm trained for this, and I was doing it with him. I was like, oh yeah, plant this, and I was almost unconsciously doing it with him. That first little garden, kind of going on autopilot almost, and not really thinking about it too much. And I was thinking more like food justice and organics. And then I was starting to learn a lot more about organic. That's sort of where we started learning a lot of the techniques of organic farming. So yeah, it all sort of, he's 100%. We're like two peas in a pod.
But the art, you play in different, your art together.
We paint murals together. When we first out of school, we traveled and worked on farms and made money by painting murals together.
Who does that?
I know, right? We probably should have got a real career, but it
works out.
So for about, I don't know, 8 years maybe. 6 years. We just traveled and worked on different organic farms, learning techniques, and then we would go and paint. We had we had some commercial clients, and we would do things in people's homes and stuff. And make money that way, and then go off on the next adventure.
Wow.
So that's the only time we really like we don't collaborate on paintings. I mean, not that we're not opposed to it or anything, but I kind of stay out of his business. He kind of stays out of mine. It works well, like, because we've always, worked together or worked from home. So we work really well together, but we collaborate on gardens and we collaborate on other things, but we kind of do our own thing for art.
Yeah, unless a little bit of separation, right?
Yeah. Well, he's incredibly focused and determined. Like, and you've seen his art, so you can tell it's very precise. So he's just painting.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk a little bit about your creations. You seem to have just been so prolific with your fun little garden stickers and your garden stuff that you sell on Etsy, and you've done so many different things. What is your favorite, and how do you do it all?
I obviously, like, I'm a high energy person. Like, this is not me on coffee. This is just me. I just woke up and drank water, and water in a smoothie. So I have a lot of energy for things that I feel passionate about, and I have a lot of, I think I have a lot of ideas. It seems like I have a lot of ideas in my head, but then I see other people and I'm like, oh my gosh, they have so many ideas. But I think I really like doing the books. Like, maybe it's hard to pick a favorite because I really like also helping get people excited about connecting with nature through art and nature journaling. So that might be my top favorite. Like, that might be sort of like the fuel, like, I love when people are like, oh my gosh, I never knew that I never knew this about this thing that I've seen or eaten. Like, I never knew that squash dipped in on the side like that, or whatever it is, these little whispers in the everyday things.
So you are a vegetable whisperer.
Yeah. I love vegetables. I was like the kid that was like, I don't want to eat the turkey. Let me have more vegetables.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think. Yeah, I really like making the books, the stickers. That it kind of seems like this year's been a really weird year for me. I had to take care of my mom because she got in a bad accident in December. So that December through March, I kind of was not prolific at all, which is another beauty of this business, is that it could sort of do itself for a little, like the Etsy shop can run itself, and I could focus on taking care of my mom. And then once she totally recovered, it was like back to work, So I feel like I've kind of been making up for lost time. But it's really fun for me, and I wanted to make stickers for so long because do you remember we had sticker books?
Oh yeah,
made them. And
I come from scrapbooking, so
yes,
and rubber stamps and stickers and
yes, it's so fun. And I'd been wanting to do this for ages, and I didn't know how. I couldn't figure out how, and then I got this lead from someone who saw a comment. I had asked someone on Instagram, like, where do you get these stickers made? But the person was from Germany and they didn't respond back. But one of the other people in the comments gave me a lead, and they just blew my whole world open there. So
future for you in stickers. I used to doodle when I was, in middle school, and I just, it's
fun.
I know. Very,
and
very fun.
I want, some people get really hung up, like with nature journaling, people think they need to be botanical illustrators. And that's what I say, no. It's not about creating a photorealistic collared leaf. It's about expressing your relationship with that collared leaf. If I want a photorealistic drawing, I'll take a picture. I don't care about that. I'm more interested in how you see it, or how I see it, or how the light is changing the color from green to yellow right now, or, these little things, not the actual botanical. Well, I do like botany, but I'm much less interested in the botanical structure of like recreating an image than I am of like your expression and relationship of that image. So
yeah, I think that's you're uniquely built for tapping into the joy of it. You help us free our
let
barrier.
go. That's what let go of these expectations that you put. Well, this doesn't look like a piece of okra. What?
Yeah.
Have you seen how many different curlicues and weird ways that okra grows that doesn't look like okra? So
yeah, nature has its way, doesn't it? It's patterns, but then not patterns.
Right. And that's sort of why I made, because my first book, actually, my first book is this one, Wings, Worms, and Wonder, and it's totally illustrated, but this one is more geared for grown-ups who want to create these wonder-filled experiences with children. But my newest book, this one, the 12-month Art and Nature Journal, while yes, probably fourth grade and up would enjoy it, I really made this for the grown-ups to prompt their wonder. Like, this is sort of like the grown-up wonder work. And to get them tuning in and giving them, sometimes if we have like, I have my workbook and I schedule 30 minutes every week to work in my workbook, we're more apt to schedule it if we have a structure. And Maria Montessori, inherent in her philosophy and methodology is freedom comes from structure. And when we create a little framework for ourselves, and whether it's, with art supplies, not having too many, limit yourself. And you can get so much more free because you're not frozen up with like, oh gosh, I don't know, there's too many to choose from. So creating a little structure for yourself. So that's what I thought, 6 pages a month, like you can do that, to help people get connected and help people be excited about connecting. And once they tap into that rhythm, they'll really start seeing and hearing the whispers. And then when their wonder is sparked, the people in their close circle wonder gets sparked, and they start sharing it. And it just filters out. And all of a sudden, before we know it, everyone will be caring about the earth and making choices that are good for the whole. So
yeah,
long term.
Wow. Well, I feel your energy. I can totally feel your energy. So we are actually, kind of running to the end of our time. And I just want to say how delightful this has been to kind of get a little closer to what's going on with this just plethora of art that you put out there and your intention, which is, super, super powerful and definitely, I think, something that is relevant for today.
I hope so. Yeah, I really want to meet that need because I feel that nature has so many healing properties and art has so many healing properties that if we combine the two, it's like, wow, that's like super force. People can be happy. And if I can have a little company that has lots of stuff for free and a few things that people can invest in their own creativity, invest in their own creative nature connections, then maybe I will have like served the world well,
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kelly Johnson.
Well, thank you. Long term.
Wow. Well, I feel your energy. I can totally feel your energy. So we are actually, kind of running to the end of our time. And I just want to say how delightful this has been to kind of get a little closer to what's going on with this just plethora of art that you put out there and your intention, which is, super, super powerful and definitely, I think, something that is relevant for today.
I hope so. Yeah, I really want to meet that need because I feel that nature has so many healing properties and art has so many healing properties that if we combine the two, it's like, wow, that's like super force. People can be happy. And if I can have a little company that has lots of stuff for free and a few things that people can invest in their own creativity, invest in their own creative nature connections, then maybe I will have like served the world well, you know?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kelly Johnson.